the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Murphy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand we have votes pending, so I'll be brief. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here today. I joined Representative Lynch and some others of our colleagues in a trip earlier this year to Iraq and Afghanistan. And frankly, as someone who's never worn the uniform, never fired a gun, never been shot at, I left there with a deep and frankly unconditional sense of appreciation for what our men and women are doing there, and I thank you for your role in leading them. My question is this. It's my understanding that Pentagon regulations require that a family be notified that a fratricide investigation is pending even before the official results are concluded. And I have a little bit of trouble, and I'll present the question first to General Myers, with the contention that simply because the malfeasance wasn't in your direct chain of command, that the leaders of our military didn't have an accompanying, I guess, personal or moral responsibility to act on what they knew was misinformation being given to the public, and certainly, if not misinformation, a complete lack of information given to the family. Now, I know this is a complex question for military leaders when you have a responsibility to break outside of the chain of command, when you know that something is being miscommunicated or you know that something is being uncommunicated. And I guess I'll ask it to General Myers first. There's a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, when you've been informed that there's a fratricide investigation going on. The family has not been notified. There are Sports Illustrated articles and much public awareness of the initial conclusion of death of Mr. Tillman. As Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, did you feel, in retrospect, do you feel that you had a personal or moral responsibility to alert the family, even though the chain of command may not have dictated that it was your responsibility?
I think it would have been absolutely irresponsible of me to interfere with the Army procedures, frankly. First of all, they're not Pentagon regulations, they're Army regulations. The Army was the one that had the regulations that said we're supposed to notify the family as soon as we know about the possibility. And frankly, with the investigation ongoing, what I was concerned about was exerting any kind of undue command influence if this ever got to UCMJ, if it ever got to the Secretary's desk, if he ever said, what do you think, which would be the only case, the only reason I'd ever look at it would be the Secretary would say, give me your opinion on this. You want to stay out of those matters so you can not be used by some defense attorney that, gee, we've had Myers saying this and we've had the Secretary saying this, therefore my client, who was accused of wrongdoing, is not guilty. There was obviously command influence. So it didn't occur to me at the time. Clearly, I knew there was an investigation ongoing. I thought that was appropriate. I did not know what had been told to the family or not been told. I mean, I just wasn't aware. I mean, it sounds harsh, and it is harsh. But the reality is, there's a lot of things going on, and this Corporal Tillman's death was significant. But it wasn't the kind of issue that occupied, you know, a whole lot of time. We had, as John said, we were working on the Battle of Fallujah. We had a myriad of issues. Abu Ghraib had just broke. We spent a lot of time in the media with Abu Ghraib and other issues. So there were a lot of issues taking our attention. And no, so I think it would have been irresponsible, frankly, for the chairman to get involved in what our Army matters. I mean, I'd have to override the Secretary of the Army, acting Secretary. That would be something that would just be totally inappropriate. Or get into General Schoolmaker's, the Chief of Staff of the Army's business. So, no.
And General, I certainly appreciate that there were a lot of competing pressures on your time. It was occupying an immense amount of the public's time at the moment. It was obviously something that many people are paying attention to. Let me just follow up on one question. Do you feel, in retrospect, that you should have asked during those intervening weeks whether or not the Tillman family knew?
No, the matter should have been handled by the Army, and it would not, I mean, I don't think it would have occurred to me to say, gee, I mean, this was not, unfortunately, not the first fratricide, not the first death, even if it's not fratricide, where there are issues with family members that the services are handling. And I don't think it was my position, I certainly not in any of the statutes or anything, or even morally, I believe, to get involved when other people are trying to handle that. I mean, that's the service's business, and it's pretty explicit. It would have been very unusual for me to ask those kind of questions, and it frankly didn't occur to me.
General Brown, let me ask you the same question. Do you regret looking back not asking more questions about what the family knew? Do you feel in retrospect that you had a personal obligation, whether or not it was within the direct chain of command, to intervene and try to make sure that the family, I'm concerned mostly about the family. I think, as the family has noted, this was a fraud perpetuated on the American public as well, but specifically in relation to the family, why weren't more questions being asked within the chain of command of whether or not the family was being told?
You know, what I'd say is that the Army ran this investigation. They also run the casualty notification process. So, and they do it routinely. And so when you see them doing the actions that they are supposed to be doing, I was not questioning them every day, were you doing every step in the process? Quite frankly, when I found out there was an issue that the family hadn't been notified, by asking the question, which was before the press release, I asked the question, had the family been notified of the Army and our Army component? And I found out that they had not, and then we tried to take actions to help facilitate getting the family notified before the press release came out, when I did ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.